Hello comrades, welcome back to Jacob's Custom Gunworks. Today I'm going to go over how I attach this PU scope and mount to this Mosin rifle. Of course this is the same rifle where it all started for me in the previous video I did, so we'll go ahead and jump into it. One of the things I wanted to note is I do not believe, and I am very sure that those are the original screws, this one here and this one here. These I got at my local hardware store, and I believe what happened is the kit that I had, the screws either were all buggered up or they just didn't time right in the rifle, so I just kind of did my own thing and got different screws. AccuMount sells the correct screws and mount and the whole 9 yards, and I believe they even have the tap for this, so if you are wondering or your kit didn't come with it, great resource to be looking into to get that done. The little pins that are in here, this is also a little note here and here. You probably don't need those. They were in my kit, so I used them, and it just adds more rigidity to this mount. It's pretty over-engineered as it is, but it works pretty well. So these screws here, this one here, and here, they're literally designed to hold this screw and this screw in place. I am not going to take this mount off because I green Loctite everything when I put this together, as I do not intend to ever remove this from the firearm. So it's not coming off. So I'll just go over to everything that I did. Some of the measurements that I took, so this piece here, overall length, I measured at about 4 3/8 of an inch. Next measurement from here to here, this little spot here was 1 5/8. From here to the very back of the tang of the receiver was 3 inches. Then from here to where your barrel starts, the nice little ridge here, was also 1 5/8 inch. Full disclaimer, that may not be where the measurements are supposed to be, but this is how I did it. So keep in mind, this is how I did it. It may or may not be correct, so take this under your own advisement. Okay, moving on. As far as tapping this, let me get it moved over here. It's not really hard. What I did is I took my needle nose vice grips after I got my pattern figured out of where I wanted this, and of course I clamped it here. And when I had somebody help me with this, because it is a two-man job when you're trying to drill everything. I started my pilot hole here for this one and for this one. Before that, I measured and checked and measured and checked everything about 5 times. I'm sure my helper was just utterly annoyed with me by the time I got done. But of course, you're going to remove the receiver from the stock, and that's the best way to do this. Do not try to do this with the stock and everything there. It's just a complete nightmare and not worth your time. But that worked very well for me, was needle nose vice grips, and then just measuring everything, making sure this is straight and level. And you want this to be straight and level, because if it's not, and you try to shoot this at any sort of distance, your scope's going to be way off. So be very patient and very thorough when you're measuring and installing everything. So take your time, don't rush. That's the best advice I have for you. And like I say, you get your tap and your T-handle, and you just go ahead and tap it like you would normally. Take your time with that as well. If your tap breaks off in these threads, because this is fairly decent steel, it's going to make life miserable. So again, don't rush. Take your time. Again, with the pins, what I did with them, if you happen to have them like I do, is I put the bolt in the gun and I ran them through just about to the point. Oh, come here there. You'll see the little pin back there where it was just about flush. This one's actually just shy of flush. And then the other one, let's see if we can get it. Yeah, there it is. That one back there. That one also is just shy of flush. I turned around after that because you're going to have a little bit of excess. And then, of course, I took my Dremel tool and I ground them down flush. So, of course, the scope bracket fits in there. So, again, take your time when you do that. Probably don't have to do that like I did. But it was in my kit, so I did it anyway. As far as your threads, same thing. And your taps and everything here, you're going to absolutely want to clean and clean and clean and clean and clean to make sure you don't get any of this stuff in your barrel at all, any of the metal flakes. Mine, I actually purposely made them a little shy than flush, and then again I use grain Loctite. If you're not going to remove it, go ahead and use green Loctite. If you ever try to take it off with green Loctite, good freaking luck. red Loctite probably sufficient. So that being said, as far as the stock inletting goes, once I had the mount on, and I put the mount on first, got everything done and mounted and where I want it. Then, of course, I used the stock, and I came in with my pencil and I marked right about where I figured I needed to be. There, and there. I don't have any measurements of that cut, but of course I give you the measurements of the overall, so that should help. Take your time with this. Again, same thing. You don't have to go too terribly far down, as you can see. And what you're going to do is you're going to cut, and then of course test fit, cut, test fit, cut, test fit. And yes, it does take a while to do so, but then you get an accurate fit of the firearm. This actually came out pretty well. The other thing I did is I did refinish the stock, or at least I did seal it. What I did was where my cut marks were, as I used India ink, because of course it's black and basically it doesn't make it stick out as bad, and I used that as my stain. And so I stained the inside of that with the India ink where I made all the cuts, and of course I sealed it, the living daylights out of it, with True Oil. You are definitely going to want to seal the stock because you are cutting it to this right in here once you're done, so keep that in mind. I hope this helps anybody that's looking to do this. I know there's other videos out there that will discuss how to do this. There's a lot of material. Get on your favorite search engine and see how it's done. There's a lot of guys that have written articles on it. So I hope, like I say, this helps somebody. The other thing that you're probably going to have to do, and this was something that was done at the factory as well, these little feet here, you're probably going to have to, and you may not, hopefully you don't have to shim these, but you're probably going to have to grind these down to get it to fit exactly. With mine, my reticle is moved all the way over to the left, and that's not good, so I'm going to have to actually finagle with this and get this so I have a more centered reticle. So that being said, like I say, I hope this helps somebody. Until next time, comrades.